Afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Marketing and Leadership Series with Kevin and Craig, where we add value to people's lives, happening every Thursday on eBiz Radio. You can catch the Lunchtime series on all major podcast channels, and joining me as per usual, a marketing and communications expert and co-host, Craig Pagely. How are you doing, Craig?
Kevin, I'm well, and you? You're quite envious that you're sitting across the oceans in Europe while we languish away here in a rather chilly and frustrated world where load shedding is kicked in again.
Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate to be sitting in. We are in Germany, Cologne, and yeah, it's an interesting little city. It's not a very big city, and quiet. Quiet compared to some of the cities I've actually been to in Europe. But yeah, it's, we haven't been away for 2 years because of lockdown. So I'm so glad that we are away. It feels weird to not be in that usual work kind of rat race. So it's taken me a couple of days to get my brain out of it. And that's why I look so rough. So I was out until 1 o'clock last night. So I was like having some loads of fun.
That's great. But you got some good destinations, Munich ahead, Amsterdam as well.
Yeah. So, I said to Eugene that, like, if we're going to do this, like, let's plan properly, let's save for it. Let's if we like, and that's my like sort of reasoning. Like, if you're going to go to Europe, go to Europe. Like, go and do it and experience. Don't go for a week. That's because you're not going to have enough time. So I wanted to take enough time to be here and experience it, and we hang out like the locals already. We're on those little scooters and mopeding around and
that's great. That's
on
wonderful.
The trams and doing the thing and sightseeing and museums and stuff. So yeah, it's and it's strange to think. I mean, one of the things it's very conflicting in my head, because a couple of 100 kilometers away, people are being bombed, and it's the juxtaposition that it puts you in, because you're kind of going, I'm just wanting to experience Europe, and other people are sort of running and fleeing their homes. It's very, it's very difficult to wrap your brain around it, but that's the reality we live in today.
Yeah, sure.
Right, so I mean, last week I felt like I was having a higher grade on the topic of retail media network. It was completely higher grade, a topic that I had no idea even existed, and I'm sure many of our listeners felt the same. What are those key takeaways and reminder points from last week's conversation?
Yeah, Kevin, thanks. The one thing that we do try and do on the show is to cover that broad range of topics in our conversations, and inevitably there's going to be a few that not many people are familiar with. So on that point, the key reminder points on the conversation on retail media networks includes the following, starting with the definition. What at least one of the definitions, because we covered a great range of them. So the one that I'm looking at in this takeaway is that a retail media network essentially refers to a collection of channels, not just digital, owned by a retail company, which is then offered to third-party businesses for advertising purposes. And the great thing here is it allows these businesses to advertise to prospects who are already in a spending mood. Then, referencing the article on neilpatel.com, we noted the advantages of a retail media network include the following. So for retailers themselves, the key advantage is that it creates new revenue streams, tapping into that 560 billion advertising spend per year. For consumers, it offers better price control for consumers because the retailers are now actually generating extra income, and they won't necessarily need to raise their prices too quickly. And again, the retailers understand that any price increase could actually result in a drop of the traffic through the digital channels. And obviously this will end up in reduced revenue. And retail media also benefits shoppers by offering a better customer experience across that entire shopper journey, helping shoppers to make better purchase decisions through each of the steps. For advertisers, the retail media network, those advertisers can actually gain access to to first-party data, probably the most important point of conversation the last few months, which is collected and owned by the website owners, which in this instance is the retailer themselves. And this data is much cleaner and of much higher value than previously collected third-party data. And it's importantly collected at the point of sale, which provides much better insight into the buying behavior at that particular point. But in closing then, Kevin, the retail media networks brings big opportunities, increased revenue, access to rich consumer data, and applicability across a wide variety of reminders, and at least industries. And that's the reminder for our takeaway today.
Fantastic. Guys, yes, so if you want to go and check that out, it was a really interesting conversation. Just check out last week's conversation on the YouTube channel, the Lunchtime series, and you'll see that there's a whole bunch of, and all of these, Craig really puts them together well, where we just follow really good conversations, one leading into the other. But Craig, you mentioned last week that we are going to cover another really important topic for brands, something to do with customers and value. What is that you're going to share with us today?
Yeah, Kevin, correct. And most definitely the topic for discussion today does include the words customers and value. And for those that are listening, we're going to investigate the topic of customer lifetime value and why this is an important metric for just about every single brand out in the marketplace today, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to this. It's one of the conversations I've recently been having with a client. And really understanding that there is value in how you sort of cultivate that relationship. So I'm quite keen to hear what you have for us.
Yeah, that's great, and you've already picked up on one or two of the key points there, and relationships being a really key driver and enabler in achieving great customer lifetime value. So, as usual, let's start by looking at a few different definitions of the topic. Kicking off with Wikipedia as usual. Customer lifetime value can also be defined as the monetary value of a customer relationship, the term you referenced, based on the present value of the projected future cash flows from the customer relationship. Or more simply put, customer lifetime value refers to the entire amount a business earns from an average customer over the course of their relationship with that particular business or brand. Referencing Spotify, one of my all-time favorite info sources, we read that the lifetime value of a customer or customer lifetime value represents the total amount of money a customer is expected to spend in your business or on your products during their lifetime. And this is an important figure to know because it really helps you make decisions about actually how much money you're going to invest in acquiring new customers and how much you're going to invest in retaining existing customers. Referencing another great content source, this time being Oracle NetSuite, we read that customer lifetime value is a measure of the total income a business can expect to bring in from a typical customer for as long as that person or account remains as a client. So to summarize those references, Kevin, customer lifetime is the measure of how many times and duration a customer spends with a brand, whether a retail experience, an online engagement, or a social media interaction. And customer lifetime value is the economic value, important statement, economic value that customers provide to the brand or company over the customer lifetime when paying for and using that company's products and services.
Yeah, and I like the word lifetime, Craig, because I've got clients, just one of my recent clients, who actually worked with me 4 years ago, but because we'd been connected on our social medias and the business owner actually knows what I do, there's still a connection there, and it's recently resurfaced and more sort of value has come from it. But I mean, to sort of tie this together, is there a formula to determine the customer lifetime value?
Yeah, Kevin, absolutely. There are a lot of formulas, and they're actually quite deep formulas in some of the readings that I came across. And there are also various ways of establishing customer lifetime value. And most importantly, though, it is important to understand that different segments of a customer base will represent fundamentally different values of lifetime value to a business or a brand. So with this in mind, brands are able to allocate resources for product development, marketing, operations, and other costs more effectively. And again, key is to know which resources to allocate to which segments at a particular point in time to ensure that that base delivers the highest revenue to the brand or business at that particular time as well, Kevin. And yeah, interestingly, according to Amazon's Alexa blog, the basic lifetime formula for customer lifetime value is defined as the average dollar or currency amount of a purchase multiplied by the number of customer purchases in a year, multiplied by the average length of the customer relationship in years, and that will then give you your customer lifetime value. So actually fairly a straightforward interpretation in this particular instance, but really there are multiple layers of depth you go into when you start analyzing into the subsegments and the likes as well.
Well, but to that point there, Craig, so when you're having those areas sort of multiplied by number of customers purchased per year to the average length of the customer relationship in years, does it necessarily give you an indicator whether you're maybe doing something wrong, maybe it's just the product that you're selling, or because essentially what you want is you want to know what the customer's lifetime value formula or that formula is for that customer and how long you can retain them? Or
yeah, it's a good question, Kevin. And again, it depends fundamentally on the nature of the product, brand, or service being offered and purchased. You know, obviously, if you're in the FMCG retail space or you know, highly disposable brands, the utilization and engagement of the brand and use of the brand is going to be a much higher frequency. And if you look at an automotive purchase, it could be every 3 to 5 years. So the duration of experience with the brand and the duration between brand engagements to the next purchase is a fundamentally important part to understand frequency. So in an automotive space, over a 20-year period, you might only have 4 key transactions, but you also need to be engaging with that individual in depth through that process, because it's about post-purchase servicing, vehicle maintenance, and all of those things. So engagement is one area of measure, but acquisition and ongoing purchase is a much bigger gap than, let's say, a mobile phone, where through fashion, through need, technology advancement, there's a much shorter life cycle in the purchase of those particular products. So understanding the category is vitally important. Understanding the typical life cycle duration of a product in that category is the next important thing. And then looking at the affordability range also then gives you some kind of sense as to how frequently folk will actually change or upgrade their product in that particular category. So multiple layers of input to get under the skin of the subsets within the customer lifetime value. But just in general, there are a couple of other formulas to look at that just give you some general basic understandings that at least help you know you're going in the right direction with a particular customer and where to pull back or advance spend from a marketing and resource point of view.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's a great article I came across on blog, gosh, my tongue tied here, on bloghubspot.com that provides further insights into the various metrics on this topic, Kevin. So titled Customer Lifetime Value Formulas, the article was written by Clint Fontanella, and we learned that there are many different ways to calculate lifetime value, but key again is to note that customer lifetime value helps businesses gauge their financial viability, and it can help improve customer retention with some good data-driven understanding of what the existing customers find valuable from each of those businesses. And like last week and the week before, the whole conversation around data really is at the forefront of understanding the proposition around customer lifetime value. So the article provides a snapshot introduction to the most common customer lifetime value formulas, which then analyze the variables that contribute each to better serve the business needs. So let's just take a quick look at these, Kevin. So the first one is the average purchase value. So calculating this number you calculate this number by dividing the company's total revenue in a period, and it's usually an annual period, by the number of purchases through that period. So average purchase value, total revenue by number of orders in that period. Then there's the average purchase frequency rate, where you calculate this number by dividing the number of purchases by the number of unique customers who made purchases during that period. So, and again, unique customers is first time in the market. So a number of purchases by the number of unique customers. Then there's also just the straightforward customer value. And you calculate this number by multiplying the average purchase value by the average purchase frequency rate. So again, within that period, how frequent are these customers going to be purchasing, and what is the average purchase value? That gives you your customer value. Then you look at the customer lifespan. You calculate this number by averaging the number of years a customer continues to purchase from your company. So sum of customer lifespans divided by the number of customers, that will give you your average customer lifespan. And then lastly, another way to look at customer lifetime value is you can multiply the customer value by the average customer lifespan. But you can see how these all build to bring in another metric to get to another quantifiable understanding of customer lifetime value. So the multiplication will give you your revenue that you can reasonably expect an average customer to generate for the brand or business through their entire relationship with that brand or business. Yeah, and that's our maths lesson for today.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, just looking at it like this, you know, from this perspective, it does give you an indicator or loads of indicators to be able to use to kind of go, okay, well, you can boil this down to, is this product selling? Does this product sell well? How many times do these customers actually buy this product? And you could also, you know, take over. I'm just thinking, you know, from my personal perspective as a business owner over the last 7 years, sort of like what's worked, and you know what is the value that I'm getting out of certain customers, and how often do they buy? And mine, you know, some of my product are over a like 2, 3, 4 year period.
Yeah.
And you know, it's what I love about this is that it gives you it can give you quite a clear understanding of what you're doing, how you're doing it, and you know, what are the blind spots that you might have in your business, and you could sort of come up with better ideas, come up with more resources to kind of gauge your client from a different angle.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. You know, one simple example. Yeah, in a product space where, let's call it, there's a renewal twice a year. You know, somebody may be coming in, whether it's a handset or some other technology device, somebody may be coming in and buying on a every 2 year cycle the best of that product upgrade. But there's a whole band and plethora of customers actually buying into each upgrade and spending in each upgrade. And over that 2 year period, their contribution of customer value could potentially be much higher than that single individual who's going for the maximum spend value in a 2 year cycle, because the incremental profitability over those upgrades collectively brings you greater value than that single purchase, which might be at a lower margin.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, how can a brand or business improve their customer lifetime value?
Yeah, as with the formula, Kevin, there are multiple ways that businesses can do that. But I genuinely believe, and you hit the word on the head at the opening of the conversation, that the effective way for brands to do this is to build those lasting and meaningful relationships with their customers. You know, that for me, that's where it begins and ends. And this point of view is also covered in detail in a really great article that I came across titled "What is Customer Lifetime Value?" And it was published on Qualtronics.com, the experience management blog. And it notes a few ways that brands can nurture those key customer relationships. And it starts with the following, Kevin: invest in the customer experience. Customer experience is made up of every contact that a customer has with a brand, from the retail store visits to making contact with a call center for queries or complaints, from purchasing to using a product, from social media engagement to being exposed to different forms of advertising. And improving the customer experience requires a business-wide approach, and it's often only achieved by implementing a thorough and robust customer experience management program. Such a program helps the brands monitor and listen to customers so that the brand can adopt a process of continuous improvement in meeting the needs of the customers. And when you're doing that, you're going to lead to potential long-term value and loyalty. The other point that they look at there is to ensure your onboarding process is seamless. Customer experience starts the very moment a potential customer engages with or experiences a brand. And the caveat here for me, Kevin, is we know that brands often just tend to forget the customer's needs once, and customer needs and care once they've got a customer in the purchase cycle. Key here again is to ensure the customer onboarding process is optimized to meet the customer's needs and make it as simple as possible and as easy as possible with minimal customer effort required. And again, personalization and communicating the extra value you provide to your customers should absolutely be a priority. So moving on from communication, provide an omni-channel support. We often speak about the importance of a well-defined omni-channel strategy, Kevin, but in this instance, it's about ensuring that customer support is also designed to meet and serve the customer as they want to engage with the brand. It's not just about understanding, it is about understanding which channels a customer wants to be engaged with, not just about what you think the customer wants to be engaged with. The reality here is omni-channel support from the brand experience, but omni-channel support from the brand support mechanics as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've addressed the topic of well-defined omni-channel strategy in detail before, but what's really standing out for me is the way that so many of our previous topics come together in defining customer lifetime value. Just look at the two previous points you noted on engaging an effortless customer experience and the seamless onboarding process.
Kevin, absolutely.
I spoke to someone the other day that said to me, there's two things to remember when doing business. Make it easy for people to get hold of you and make it easy for them to give you money. I was like, that's a good statement to live by, right?
Absolutely. And when you adopting the correct omni-channel strategy, you should in essence be making it easier for people to get hold of you. And when that seamless journey, the customer experience journey is in place, the purchase journey is in place, then you in essence making it easy for them to part with their money. So yes, I like that. Yeah, but yes, it's great to see the various topics coming together when defining customer lifetime value. And there's even more. The next few points most definitely speak to some of our previous topics. So let's jump into the next one, and that is start a loyalty program. The key objective of a loyalty program is to incentivize repeat business by offering discounts or benefits in return. And the program can be run via a loyalty card, an app, or a point system that customers accrue when they make a purchase. But either way, going back to the previous point, the loyalty program can yield great success when it's planned and executed well. The next point to improve customer lifetime value is to recognize and reward your best customers. Once the customer experience management platform and program has been implemented and running for a while, you start gathering good data sets. And this data should actually then start highlighting which customers are likely to have the best customer lifetime value. The brand can then build on that relationship with those individuals or groups and reward them for their loyalty with special and unique offers via targeted marketing, Kevin. Remembering the power of social media, another point that can use to improve customer lifetime value. As we all know, social media is important not only for customer communications, but also for customers to gather information on the brand and business in question. And the opinion that a customer has of a brand is very easily affected by the way a brand responds to a query or issue communicated via social media. And especially if the response is not fast enough, not thorough enough, or empathetic enough, that will immediately be a downturn for customer experience. Yeah. And the last point here, Kevin, is to close the loop with unhappy customers. So you can see this build of inputs from understanding your customer, seamless experience, reward loyalty, but through the omni-channel proposition as well, understand where the query and complaints circle is as well, a loop. Jump in there, because closed loop feedback is a powerful way to reduce unwanted churn and turn dissatisfied customers into new loyal customers. And the brands or business in question must reach out to the detractors or complainants and intervene before issues escalate and lead to a breakdown of that customer relationship, which in essence comes from a lack of trust. This targeted effort, definitely an active listening on the part of the brand, will make the relationship stronger than it actually originally was, Kevin.
Absolutely, Craig. I mean, just from a perspective, one of the things that, when you're having an unhappy customer, especially when I do a lot of call center training, the very first thing that you do is you acknowledge the anger of the person speaking. And you literally say, I hear that you're unhappy. If this happened to me, I would also be very unhappy. Then you deal with the problem, So
Yes.
I like the fact that you're closing that loop with unhappy customers, because just from a behavioral perspective, it takes you, it takes you length when you know that your clients are at the end of the day looked after, and you can intervene before, it becomes escalated and so you do that well.
Yeah. To that point, Kevin, it's vitally important for these businesses and brands then to have a good customer relationship management program in place, because if you don't have those mechanics in place, you're not going to have the opportunity to have the social listening, to be upfront and personal with the customers on a regular basis, to understand what the pain point is. You're going to find out way too late in the equation.
And also, you don't want to have to have your customer lifetime value be influenced to that degree based on the fact that you don't have a good customer relationship system in place, right?
Yes.
Because you might be great at selling the product, but after a couple of months and years, you find that where it's sort of dropping off is based on how you're dealing with your customers and what loyalty you have from your customers, and are you closing that loop? So it really gets your brain start thinking about, okay, so how do you make sure you're ticking all those boxes so that you have lifetime value from a customer, and what that lifetime value looks like and is for your business.
And Kevin, using those metrics to do some deep dive analysis to understand if you're in a product space where you don't expect a high fall off or high attrition of the product, and you've not had that over a period of time, but suddenly you are having that, then it's a case of understanding, is the competitor out there beating you with a product or value? Is your service delivery problematic? So some internal and external analysis to get you understand whether it's a business problem or whether you're needing to now actually put some more effort into marketing activities and right price your product, etc. You've got to be able to do these things, and you can only do that when you've got a good customer management program in place.
Absolutely. So, Craig, as we near to the end of the show, what are the key takeaways that you can share with listeners for this interesting topic?
Yeah, Kevin, I want to reference the article titled "Why is Customer Lifetime Value Important to Business? Why does it matter?" From netsuite.com one more time for the summary takeaway points today. So the article covers a few key reasons for brands and companies to track and use customer lifetime value in their business understanding. So the first one here is you can't improve what you don't measure. So once you start measuring customer lifetime value and breaking it down into those various components, you can actually now start employing specific strategies around, as I mentioned, pricing, sales, advertising, and customer retention, with a goal of continuously reducing your costs, and then obviously, the opposite of that, increasing your profit. The second point there is to make better decisions on your customer acquisition costs. So when you know what you will actually earn from a typical customer, you can increase or decrease your spending to ensure that you maximize your profitability, and you can continue to attract the right types of customers in that higher profitability band. The next point on that is improved forecasting. Customer lifetime value forecasts help you make forward-looking decisions in the business, whether it's around inventory, staffing, production capacity, or other costs that come into that respective business. And without a forecast, you could unknowingly actually overspend or waste money in one area, or actually underspend and put yourself in the corner in another area while you're struggling to keep up with demand or product demand, Kevin. The article then goes on to provide an overview of a few key advantages of customer lifetime value. And the four here that we look at is improve customer retention. So one of the biggest factors in addressing the customer lifetime value is actually improving customer retention and avoiding that attrition, a point we spoke about a short while ago. And tracking those details with accurate segmentation can definitely help you identify those best customers in a particular band and allow you to understand what's working well or not. Drive repeat sales. Some retailers, tech companies, restaurant chains, and other businesses have built in those loyalty programs, and they help customers come back time and time again. And you can use your customer lifetime value to track the average number of visits per year or over the customer lifetime through those that have taken up the loyalty and those that haven't taken up the loyalty as well. Encourage higher value sales. Netflix is a great example of a business that improved their customer lifetime value through their higher pricing, but they also learned years ago that increasing the cost too quickly may scare off long-term customers, and it's about keeping the right balance in place. And interestingly, this morning I read that Netflix is for the first time, I think it lost 200,000 customers in the last year. They're now working to offer a second tier, cheaper base access program, at least access product, and that particular product is going to come with paid for advertising because they've got to subsidize their revenues from the loss of the higher monthly subscription model. Yes. Did you also read that?
Yeah, it's interesting because they've actually been the forerunners of sort of steering away from advertising. But listening to this and understanding how this impacts your business and what how do you sort of keep a certain segment happy, but also offer more to a segment that's dropping off because of pricing. Some people might sort of sign up based on the fact that I don't mind an advert here or there.
Kevin, I think it's yes, pricing is very much a key driver in these decisions, but I think that as we've sort of come through a bit more of a course correction of people's digital screen viewing habits, maybe falling a bit more in line with pre-COVID time and multi-screen engagement, some of the connected TV platforms and some of the other paid for advertising platforms are making themselves more appealing to Netflix. And I think it's not just price, it's competition and a readjustment to pre-COVID behaviors in this particular instance.
And Craig, we know we love a good disruptor, right? So
yes,
when it's disruption, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and the key thing there is it's about increased profitability. So a higher customer lifetime value should lead to bigger profits, Kevin. But keeping your customers longer and building a business that encourages them to spend with you more should see the benefits show up on the bottom line. And I think Netflix are probably looking at it from that point of view, where they had a reduction in profitability, they need to increase profitability. So there has to be a whole product value investigation as to how to bring back another layer to their business. Key point there in closing is that none of this is possible without a well-defined and robust data collection strategy, Kevin, because all of this predicates being able to gain access to, utilize, and deploy against good comprehensive data understanding.
Yeah, Craig, and the more that we have these conversations, the more I realize, from a big brand perspective, that is almost it's a no-brainer. But from a small brand perspective, it is an absolute consideration. It's an absolute essential to start really looking at, do you have a database? Do you have even if it's a simple loyalty program, if it's a simplified loyalty program, what kind of data do you have about the people that you do work with? Even the training programs that I'm currently doing, using all the data that I'm collecting through, doing an analysis and sort of seeing the changes that's happening within the organization and how it's sort of affecting the organization, to be able to use that data and really structure it and use it for future sort of business cases. So, everything really that we do is data, and we need to just think about how to use it better.
And Kevin, you talk about small businesses. They're great brands and businesses out there that have built their entire existence around serving small businesses. And if you look just in the e-commerce environment, Shopify, for me, one of those incredible products that have enabled the smallest of mom and pops to enter the world of e-commerce. And as the businesses scale, the plug and play mechanics of different billing engines, email messaging, newsletter engines, some data analytics. So, there are these businesses out there that at the right price and the right modules for plug and play can actually start helping these smaller businesses get to the point of a deeper data understanding. No doubt about that.
Absolutely. Craig, finally, what are we going to chat about next week?
Yeah, Kevin, we're going to look at some of the shifting trends in digital media and engagement with digital platforms. For example, how consumers are engaging more frequently now with video content and social platforms, and how they log more negative comments and complaints on Twitter than any other site. And these are just some of the great insights to share from a recent UScan report, which will form part of the conversation next week. And more in the marketing think conversation next week.
Fantastic. Guys, you can catch the Lunchtime and Leadership series with Kevin and Craig on ebizradio.com every Thursday at 12 and all major podcast channels. Craig Pagely, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Kevin. Enjoy your time away. Look forward to it.
Cheers for now.
Ciao.
Bye.